Okay, so ready to dive into deja vu.
Always.
You ever get that like weird feeling like you've been in a situation before, even though you know you haven't?
Yeah, I think most people have had that. Happens to me all the time.
Well, that's deja vu.
Yeah.
And we've got this transcript from a Hindi podcast episode about it. So I figured let's deep dive into it.
Perfect timing, actually. I was just reading about Deja Vu the other day. It's really interesting.
Yeah, and get this, the Hindi podcast even uses this example of like visiting a new city and feeling like you've already been there.
Oh, yeah, totally. That's like the classic Deja Vu experience, right?
Mhm.
Super relatable, like already seen.
Which, by the way, that's exactly what deja vu means.
What?
Yeah, deja vu is actually French for already seen.
Huh. You learn something new every day.
Right. And it's not even that unusual.
What do you mean?
Well, I was reading that like a lot of people have experienced deja vu.
Oh, really? How many?
Well, apparently something like 60 to 70% of people have had it at least once.
Wow, that's a lot more common than I thought.
Right. So like what's actually going on in our brains when we get that deja vu feeling? The Hindi podcast talks about a bunch of possible scientific explanations.
Yeah, there are tons of theories out there. One of the most common ones is the idea of like a brain glitch, you know?
Brain glitch. That sounds kind of scary.
It's not as bad as it sounds. It's basically the idea that our brains like misfile a new experience and accidentally put it in the memory category, even though it's brand new.
So like it's a filing error. Like our brain hit save in the wrong folder.
Uh-huh. Yeah, exactly. And to get even more specific, some scientists think it might be something happening in the temporal lobe of the brain.
Oh, isn't that the part that's like really important for memories and stuff?
Yeah, exactly. It's heavily involved in processing like all sorts of sensory information and memories. So if there's even a small hiccup in how it's working, it could like trigger a deja vu experience.
Hold on, hiccup. Like what kind of hiccup are we talking about?
Well, there are a few different theories about that. One idea is that there might be a slight delay in how information travels between different parts of the brain.
Delay. So like a timing issue.
Exactly. So, a new sensory experience might accidentally get processed by the memory centers before it's fully registered as a new event.
So it's like a split-second delay that just throws everything off.
Yeah, something like that. And that delay could create the illusion that you've already lived through something, when really it's just your brain messing with you. There's also the idea of false memories,
Wait, are you saying deja vu could actually be a false memory?
It's a possibility, right? Like, our brains are super complex, and sometimes they create memories that never actually happened. It's kind of freaky when you think about it.
That's wild. So we've got this this brain glitch theory and this idea of false memories. What else did that podcast say?
Well, this is where things get a little more out there,
Okay, lay it on me. I love the out there stuff.
Well, one theory is that deja vu might be linked to past lives.
Past lives.
Yeah.
You mean like reincarnation?
Exactly. Some people believe that that feeling of familiarity you get during deja vu is actually a memory from a past life, like a fragment of an experience from a totally different time and place.
Wow. So like we're tapping into memories from a previous existence.
That's the idea. Of course, this is definitely more of a spiritual thing than a scientific thing, and there isn't any hard evidence to back it up. But, it's definitely an interesting thought.
It's super thought-provoking. So if we're talking about past lives, are we basically talking about like a soul or some kind of consciousness that carries on after death? I have so many questions.
I know, right? It's a rabbit hole for sure. But that's what makes these theories so compelling, They force us to question everything about consciousness, death, the nature of reality. It's pretty wild.
Okay, I'm ready for more. What other theories does the podcast cover?
Okay, so get ready for this one. Another theory is like the parallel universe theory.
Parallel universes. Okay, now we're really getting into sci-fi territory.
I know, right? But think about it. Like, what if deja vu is actually like a glimpse into another dimension, a parallel universe where there's another you living a slightly different life?
Whoa. So, like, we're talking about literally stepping into an alternate reality. Are there, like, infinite versions of ourselves out there?
That's what some people think. Like, imagine infinite universes existing all at once, and every decision, every little thing that could have gone differently creates a new branch, a new universe.
Okay, I'm trying to keep up, but that's a lot of universes. So how does that connect to deja vu?
So people who believe this theory say that deja vu happens when, like, your consciousness briefly overlaps with the consciousness of your other self in one of these parallel universes.
So it's like our realities bump into each other for a second.
Yeah, kinda. And that's what creates that feeling of, I've already done this, even though you know you haven't, because maybe you have, just in a different universe.
Okay, my mind is officially blown.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing there's like zero scientific proof for this, right?
Nope. Pure speculation. But hey, that's what makes it so fun to think about. It pushes the boundaries of what we know or think we know about the universe.
It definitely does. And it's not just scientists and philosophers who are fascinated by deja vu.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, think about all the movies and books that use deja vu. You know, it's like a classic plot device.
Oh, yeah, totally. It pops up everywhere, especially in, like, sci-fi and fantasy. It's like a shortcut to make things feel mysterious and otherworldly.
It totally works. Okay, give me some examples. What are some of the best deja vu moments in movies?
Oh, man, there are so many. But, like, one that always comes to mind is The Matrix, you know?
Oh, yeah, with Neo and the black cat.
Exactly. He sees the same cat twice, and it triggers this, like, intense deja vu for him. And it's not just a random thing. It's actually a clue that something's wrong with the reality he's in.
Yeah, it's like a glitch in the Matrix. It's such a cool way to use deja vu, you know? It makes you question everything you're seeing.
Right. It plays with your expectations and makes you wonder if what you're seeing is real or not.
Totally. Another one that comes to mind is Donnie Darko. Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah. Donnie Darko. That's a classic.
It's like a cult classic for a reason. It uses deja vu to explore all these deep themes like fate, free will, time travel. It's a lot to unpack.
Definitely a mind bender. The deja vu in that movie is like all mixed up with visions and premonitions, and it just leaves you wondering what's real and what's not.
Right. It's like, is deja vu a warning? A glimpse into the future? Or is it just like a trick that our minds are playing on us?
Maybe it's all of the above. Who knows?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it, I guess. It keeps us guessing.
It definitely keeps things interesting. And it's not just movies. Think about all the books that use deja vu.
Yeah, like Stephen King. He loves to use deja vu in his horror novels.
Totally. It's like a way to create suspense and make the reader feel uneasy, like something bad is about to happen.
For sure. And it makes you think, like, does the way we see deja vu in movies and books affect how we experience it in real life?
That's a really good point. I mean, we see it all the time in stories as a sign of something bigger, something supernatural. So maybe that makes us more likely to interpret our own deja vu experiences that way too.
It's totally possible. We're always influenced by the stories we consume.
It's all connected, isn't it? The science, the theories, the pop culture references, it all just adds to the mystery of deja vu.
Definitely. And I think that's what makes it so fascinating. There's still so much we don't know about it.
Exactly. So speaking of things we don't know, let's talk about the actual research into deja vu. What are some of the key studies or findings that have tried to shed light on this whole thing?
Well, deja vu is like really hard to study. I mean, it's so random, right?
Yeah, it's not like scientists can just tell someone to have a deja vu experience and then like study their brain.
Exactly. But they've come up with some pretty creative ways to investigate it.
Oh, really? Like,
Yeah. Well, some studies have used virtual reality, like they create these scenarios in VR that are really similar to things people have experienced before, but with little changes, you know, to see if they can trigger deja vu.
so they're basically trying to like trick people's brains into having a deja vu moment.
Yeah, kind of. And the interesting thing is, when people do have deja vu in these VR experiments, their brains show increased activity in certain areas.
Like what areas?
Well, like the areas that are involved in memory and emotion.
Emotion. Why would emotions be involved in deja vu?
Well, one theory is that deja vu might happen when our brain senses a mismatch between what we're experiencing right now and our memories.
So like our brain is trying to figure out why something feels familiar,
Yeah.
even though it shouldn't.
Exactly. And that process of trying to resolve that conflict, that mismatch, might be what creates that weird, unsettling feeling we get with deja vu.
That makes sense. So are we like getting closer to actually figuring out what causes deja vu?
I think so. The more we understand about the brain, the closer we get to understanding these weird experiences we have. But, you know, the brain is incredibly complex.
Yeah, for sure. But it's amazing though, right? I mean, deja vu is something that like pretty much everyone can relate to, no matter where they're from or what their background is.
Totally. It's this like universal human experience, you know, even if we don't fully understand it yet.
And you know, it's funny because even though we've been talking about all the science and the theories, I keep coming back to what that Hindi podcast host said. Don't be afraid of deja vu.
I agree. I mean, it can feel strange, for sure, but it's usually totally harmless, right?
Mhm.
It's just our brains doing their thing.
Right. And maybe it's a reminder that there's still so much we don't know about ourselves, about our minds, about the universe.
Exactly. And hey, maybe those deja vu moments are like little glimpses into something bigger, something beyond what we can currently understand.
That's a great way to think about it. So for everyone listening, the next time you experience deja vu, try not to just brush it off. Take a moment to really think about it. Maybe it's trying to tell you something.
Yeah, or maybe it's just your brain playing tricks on you. Either way, it's pretty cool to think about.
It definitely is. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into deja vu. We hope you learned something new and that you'll keep exploring the world with a sense of wonder and curiosity. See you next time.